What if I told you that being an actor and a homeowner is not as difficult as you may think? In this video, I interviewed two of my friends, a realtor and a mortgage broker, about how they have helped many young actors, a lot of them in their 20s, purchase their first homes. What's up, my fellow actors? Welcome to the Acting Career Center, here to help you learn the skills you need to break into the film and television industry. My name is Kurt Yu. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If this is your first time here, you definitely want to subscribe to this channel to get more videos on acting, auditioning, and career advice every single week. Now, today's video is a little bit different because we are talking about some life goals, not just acting goals, because a lot of younger actors, when they start out, they think that they have to put their life goals on hold to pursue their acting career fully. And one of those life goals being homeownership. Now, homeownership does not have to be something that's only for rich people, and it doesn't have to be something that's only for people who have 9-to-5 jobs. Actors with their weird income streams coming from 15 different places can definitely still become homeowners. That's why in this video, I've interviewed two of my friends, Muretta Moss, who is a realtor, and Mitzi Marshall, who is a mortgage broker, about how they have helped many young actors become first-time homeowners. So if this is something that you've been interested in, or if it's something that you've never thought about only because you thought it was a pipe dream and you didn't think it was achievable, then you should definitely listen to this interview. All right, I am here with Muretta Moss and Mitzi Marshall. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah,
Great.
doing really good.
Yeah.
The first thing that I'll have you guys do is just introduce yourselves and tell us about what you do and what your job specifically is. I'd like to tell people first that both of you guys are also actors. So I think this being an actor's YouTube channel, I think having people that are actors as well as real estate agents and mortgage brokers, you guys can really speak to basically the lifestyle of an actor, right? And sometimes it's harder for people that are in this industry to go through that home buying process. And sometimes people don't even think that they're able to, but we absolutely can. And I know plenty of actors who have bought houses. The two of you helped me buy this place. So yeah, why don't we start with you, Muretta, and tell us about who you are.
Great. Muretta Moss, based in Atlanta. So I am an actress and a licensed realtor. And I love selling homes, and I love selling homes to actors because, like you said, Kurt, a lot of people don't realize that they can, and they have maybe a starving artist mindset. And once there's just a shift in that, because you're paying rent each month, why don't you use that and like contribute that towards your future? So that's something that I love to kind of empower artists to realize that it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the Atlanta is a place where that can be achieved. I think it can probably be achieved anywhere, but it's just a more realistic opportunity here in Atlanta than maybe some other locations
Right.
for actors. And yeah, that's me.
All right, awesome. Mitzi.
Hey, I'm Mitzi Marshall, and I am an actress, and I'm also a mortgage broker. And I've been doing mortgages for about 30 years now, all over the country. Currently licensed in California, Kansas, Missouri, and Georgia. So I do loans in those 4 states, but I primarily focus on the Atlanta market because I live here in Atlanta. And like Muretta said, just to reiterate that, the Atlanta market is just amazing. It's amazing for artists and actors and anyone who thinks that they just are out of that market. They're not. It's totally available to them, and it's a great place to buy a home and own a home, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I've met multiple people, I'm sure you guys have as well, actors that have moved here from Los Angeles or from New York, working actors who were working in those markets, but wanted to be able to afford a home and wanted to raise a family and wanted to not have to pay, through the roof in rent and be able to be a homeowner. So I think it totally supports what you guys have been saying about, being able to work as an actor here in this market, but also accomplish some of your other goals, your life goals of homeownership, right?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, kind of no matter what stage you are as an actor, whether you have been like doing it for many years and accomplished, and you have decided that you want to take that savings and put it towards a house, or you're working towards getting those credits, you can still put that money that you're making, whether it's just a day job you have while you're working on your career as an actor, there's still this a way that you can become a homeowner. It doesn't have to be this lofty future goal. Or, I mean, I know for women, we unfortunately have this mindset that there's going to be this knight in shining armor that's going to come, and we don't have to worry about homeownership for ourselves because maybe a man is going to come and marry us, and then we're going to buy a home, which is such a weird mindset that gets placed in our heads sometimes. Or we're going to get that series regular job, and then it's time for homeownership. I think those are just really weird things that I know I have had in my mind. So I just want to empower women too, to like cut that BS out and kind of empower yourself with realistic goals. That was maybe TMI, but
no, I think that's great. And I think it's absolutely true that that certain people, and you're talking about women, but also younger people too, in general, that think, oh, this, it's not something that I could possibly do right now, like in my 20s or whatever. But I mean, the two of you have, I personally know actors that the two of you have helped that are younger people that are buying their first houses, and they're actors and they have these irregular incomes, but they were able to make it work because they kind of planned for it and were able to do that, right?
Mitzi and I have closed powerful single women on their homes, and it is like
in their 20s.
In their 20s.
In their 20s. Yeah, it's very inspiring. It's an achievable lifestyle for just about anyone who wants to get there. And it's not, with today's rates, with an amazing realtor on your side, with a team in place, that you can achieve it easily. It's not hard. It's not hard.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've honestly learned too, because until I was seeing some of my friends that were actors buying homes, before I saw that, I didn't think that it was possible for, people that were in this industry, that were as young as they were, to be able to do it. But it's really awesome to see something like that. So let's kind of get into the details of like what people can do, right, to start planning for this. I think one of the first questions maybe would be, like, a lot of people don't know how much they can afford. Like, they're currently paying X amount of dollars for rent. Does that mean that they can afford a home where the mortgage is that exact price? Is that the only thing that they have to think of? Like, what is a down payment and how much they have to put down when they buy a house? I know these are a lot of questions, but they are the questions that people have to be asking, right?
Exactly. I think that I'm sure Muretta would agree with me that obviously you've got to have some money saved. And it's not exorbitant amounts of money, but for down payment, I would say a minimum of 3% you need to have in the bank. 5% is even better, because sometimes the negotiation of closing costs can be worked out with the seller, where the seller pays some closing costs, and sometimes it can't. But having a cushion for closing costs between 3 and 5% is also great. Awesome. The more money you've got, the better, obviously, saved. But as far as how much you can afford, the way that I like to look at it is, you want to look at your gross income. What is your gross provable income? So if you have your acting work and then you have another side hustle, or you have 4 or 5 side hustles like most of us do, then you want to make sure that you're looking at gross, not net, not what you bring home. Because naturally, all of us want to look at net income. What's my
So can
net
you
income?
really quickly explain the difference between gross income and net income?
Sure, absolutely. It's before taxes and after taxes. It's what the government takes from you versus your full amount that you're getting. So you're going to want to always go off of gross income. And once you've calculated your gross income, it's between 36 and 48% of that is where you want your full amount of your debts and your house payment to be. That's it. Your house payment includes principal, interest, taxes, and insurance on that house. A really easy way is just call me and we'll figure it out and get you pre-qualified. Super easy way. I can pre-qualify somebody pretty quickly. I'm sure Muretta can do the exact same thing, and we can just kind of work it out. And your comfort zone as well is a big thing. Is if you feel like $1,000 a month is your comfort zone, that's where you need to be. And as long as your gross income supports it, great. If you feel like $1,500 a month is where you're comfortable, then let's back into it and see if that fits your income as well.
That's what I say. It doesn't necessarily, if you're approved for like a X amount of money, but you only want to pay this much in rent or like your monthly mortgage, then that's what we should be looking at, because that's probably going to be a lot less than what you're pre-approved for. So I try and look at what your monthly mortgage is going to want to be instead of like the overall big money that you're pre-approved for. And it's hard to stay, like people's expectations of what they want in a home sometimes gets blown out of what their monthly mortgage is going to be. So that's like the biggest balance of the managing expectations. But going to a lender first and seeing what you're pre-approved for, and then basically coming to your realtor and then us figuring out, houses in that price point and what your monthly mortgage is going to be, including all of those extras of like, it's not just your like what you're paying for the house, but it's the property taxes and the homeowner's insurance, all that piled in there that you're paying for with your monthly mortgage.
Really quick, so for those people that do live in the states that you are licensed in, Mitzi, you said that they can just call you. So I'll put your contact info down here in the description of the video for people to reach out to you. And then one really quick question, just specifically for you, Muretta, for a lot of people that are first-time home buyers that don't really know the whole process, and because there are these websites now like Zillow and Trulia and other websites that show homes that are for sale that anybody can just look up, some people might be asking, well, why, if I can just find these homes, what is the benefit of having a realtor on their side?
A great question. A realtor is your advocate. So first off, we hold the key literally to every home you want to see. I know it's fun to look at homes online, and in times of COVID, there's virtual showings that we're doing, but you definitely want to get in your home before you purchase it.
Right.
So we hold the key to that. And your home is being listed for sale by another realtor. So that realtor is an advocate for that seller. And when you go and you are trying to buy that home, that realtor is legally advocating for the seller. So if you think you're saving money by like them cutting the commission that they would pay for a buyer's agent, you are sadly mistaken. They might spin it as because they're advocating for their seller that they're going to save you money, but that's just them being a good listing agent. If you need someone to advocate on your behalf because that listing agent is advocating for their client. Sometimes an agent might take you on and represent you as both the listing agent and the buyer's agent, but that's something that I don't do, and I don't think any agents should do, because they are pulling commission from both sides, and I don't think an agent can adequately represent a buyer and seller at the
A little
same
bit of a
time.
conflict of interest, right? Because you're trying to get the most money for one person and trying to save the most money for another.
Yeah, I don't think that's a little bit of conflict of interest. It's
Yeah,
like huge conflict of
right.
interest. And yeah, and they can say they're just representing you as a customer. So then they're solely representing their seller, but then you're not getting the representation that you need. And you do need it from just initial negotiation, negotiating repairs. I don't think, even if you've bought and sold before, you are going to have the representation you need without an agent. And in the state of Georgia, representation as a buyer's agent, it's free to you. The seller pays that commission, and we can get into that a little later or now. But you need a realtor.
Yeah, I think hearing you say that it made me think about how it's we can put it in the terms that a lot of actors will understand, in that when you're working in the industry, the casting directors work for the productions, and your acting agent works for you. So casting directors are in place to save the production's money, and your agents are in place to try to negotiate the best deals for you. And if you didn't have an agent on your side working for you, it's a lot harder to do so, right? And similar to an actor's agent, the advice we always give to newer actors is you never want to sign with an agency that's trying to take money from you up front. Similar to as a real estate agent, right? The buyer is not paying you money. That's coming through from commission from the sale of the house, right?
Correct. Yep. And even on the listing side, they don't get paid until that house is sold.
Right.
So until the job is done. Exactly.
Hey, let me jump in for a second. If you like this video so far, do me a solid and give it a thumbs up. All right, let's get back to it. Mitzi, you had mentioned that the down payment, you recommended having at least maybe 3 to 5%. And again, that was something that was new to me as well, because I always thought you had to have like 10, 20% available, but you can actually start with quite a bit lower. And I think that's probably something that a lot of people don't know, because people think they have to have like a huge down payment saved up. So, they could be looking for something that's like $200,000, and 3% of that is only $6,000. So that's like that's a really doable amount for a lot of people, I think, to save up that much money, right?
Yeah, $6,000, people, if you just, quit going to Starbucks and all of us have been sitting in quarantine for 2 months. I mean, don't tell me you didn't save a bunch of money sitting in quarantine, unless you've been doing the online shopping like I have, but that's another story. But it's very achievable to get $6,000 in the bank, and it's achievable even if you have family members that are willing to gift you funds. You can have almost 100% gifted to you.
Right.
So you don't have to have you don't even have to have it all in the bank. You can have a portion of it and say, maybe mom and dad were going to gift you some money, or your cousin or your aunt or whatever. That's achievable as well. You can take a 401, if you have a 401k, you can take a loan out against your 401k and use that. There's lots of ways to do this. Lots of people think that they can't do it. They can't. And there's plenty. I'm sure Muretta would agree with me. There are tons of properties in that price point in our area, and in New York and LA, you're never going to, you'll live in a shack for $200,000. But here in Atlanta, you can have that life where you can raise a family in a $200,000 home very comfortably here. And I think that people would love that.
And something that we can do, and I don't do it a lot because I definitely try and like negotiate closing costs. It's the costs of purchasing, like it's cash due at closing, like your down payment. It's additional funds that you need at closing. It's typically 3.5% of the purchase price of the home. So if we're buying a $200,000 house, we're looking at another 6 to 7% due at closing. Okay, so then if we say, how much cash do we need on this $200,000 home, that's $12,000 plus. Right. So that's a lot of money. But this is negotiable closing costs. So I can ask the seller to contribute some of that. This is a seller's market, so it's harder to get them to contribute because it just is. There's might be multiple offers on it. They don't need to pay as much in closing costs that they did in maybe other times in the market. But what we could do is if it's a $200,000 house and you only have $6,000 saved for your down payment, I can add that to the purchase price of the home, and we can do $206,000 for this purchase price, and then $6,000 in closing, so that the net to seller is the same. So if there were multiple offers on that house, we basically incorporated the closing costs in there. So even though you're paying a little over asking price, you still have that the seller's paying the $6K at closing for you, so you don't have to bring that $6K in closing. It's incorporated into your loan, which ends up being an additional. It's very small on your monthly payment, but that's
very small.
Yeah,
it would be like $20, but
that makes a lot of sense. Really quick, just to jump in, that it makes a lot of sense for me because I had just gone through this process with you guys last year. But I think for some people who are new to it, it's getting into the weeds a little bit because they may not really understand exactly what's going on. But I think the overall point is that a lot of this there is wiggle room and it's negotiable. And if you went to a lender or you went to a realtor and you say, this is what I have, they can definitely help guide you, right? And say, well, this is what we can do with what you have. And then there will be no surprises when you get to the final closing day and say, oh, wow, I didn't know I needed an extra $6,000 on top of what I had to put down, right? So that's another benefit of talking to someone like either of you early on in the process to figure it out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then if let's say you don't have any money saved right now, but you want to buy a house, well, then a lady just came back to me a few months ago, and she was like, she listened to me, called me back a year later, and did exactly what I told her to do, and followed through. And so it's a matter of maybe you can't buy a house today, but maybe we give you the tools to where in a year or 6 months from now you have your ducks in a row and can do that. And that kind of segues into credit, having good credit versus what is credit versus what isn't credit. How does that affect getting a mortgage? And the thing about credit scores, and everybody, I'm assuming, who is in their 20s has heard about or knows about credit, and they probably have a general idea of where their credit score is, or at least they have a general idea of how they pay their bills. And the most important thing about credit scores is pay your bills on time. That's the most important thing to do, is to, pay your bills on time. That's the simple answer to that. But one of the things to notice is, where does my credit score currently at? And anything under a 640 is considered fair. And like 640 to probably 670 and below is considered fair. 670 to 739 is good. 740 to 799 is considered very good. And over 800 is considered exceptional. So that's the idea of where your credit score is. You can see your credit anytime you want, once a year for free at annualcreditreport.com. annualcreditreport.com. And you can go there and you can see all three of your different credit bureaus that report on your credit score. Or there's a lot of banks that, if you're banking with a certain bank, they'll kind of give you your credit score on a monthly basis as part of your banking information, something like that.
So how does a credit score affect the loan that you get?
It's a great question. Credit scores affect your loan rate, where you end up rate-wise. So let's say you're in the 670 range, and you're in the fair range. Your rate is going to be higher than someone who is in the exceptional range, because they've taken the time and the energy to make sure that their credit score is exceptional. And one of the ways to get there, one of the easy ways to get there, is to maintain a debt ratio of payments of 30% or less. So let's say you have enough credit cards that you've got $10,000 worth of credit lines open to you. you want to stay under 30% of that in outstanding balances. So $3,333. So you want to stay under that. So the more that you pay down your credit cards to where you're under that 30% mark, it's going to drive your score higher. That's what's going to happen. So staying there, and then let's say you pay off a credit card. Lots of people want to go and close that credit line. Don't close your credit lines, because the more open balance you have, the closer you are to that 30%. So keep the credit card open. I mean, hide the credit card if you have to, whatever, lock it in a safe, I don't know, but keep your credit card line open so that you achieve that 30% faster. That's what you want to do, if at all possible. You want to limit the amount of times that you have your credit pulled. So don't open new credit lines unless you have to. And doing those things on a month-to-month basis, you're going to see your credit score go higher and higher and higher.
So the times that people are potentially getting their credit pulled is if they are applying for a new credit card, or if they're like trying to buy a car and applying for a car loan or something like that, right? So you don't want to be doing too much of that if you're getting ready to buy a house in the near future, right? What about if people are just starting, like if someone's just starting out in the exploring the possibility of buying a home, and they don't really have a credit history? If they don't have, like, let's say, I know plenty of people that really just use debit cards for their purchases and have never had a credit card in their lives. If they want to kind of establish a longer credit history and they want to start now, should they apply for a credit card and start using a credit card to do that?
Yes, that's a great way to establish credit. 3 credit lines minimum is what you want to see on a credit bureau. For someone who's early 20s, 19, something like that. Normally, when I talk to my kids about establishing credit, 3 credit lines is what you need. You need 3 credit lines to really have established some credit. So what we did was prepaid visas. So you go to a bank or even online, is you can get a prepaid visa. You can apply for it. So that means that basically you can put $200, $500, prepay that visa. They'll give you a Visa card. They hold your $500, and then you use it periodically. And once you've established that, they're going to give you your $500 back, and you've established, okay, I'm capable of paying this off and paying this back. And then you'll slowly build it up. You know, Macy's cards are a great way to do it. Get a $100, $200 credit line with Macy's. Pay it off. Use it, pay it off. Use it, pay it off.
That's really interesting. I didn't even know that was counted as a credit line. Oh, that's great. So once they've kind of gone through this, now they're at the process of kind of looking for a place. And now they'll come to you, Muretta, or they'll come to any realtor to start looking at houses. What is that process then? Are you just driving around and finding places, or how does that whole thing work?
Well, right now it's kind of like this partnership that we do, because like you said, most people are online already looking. You're on Zillow or Realtor.com, and you've been, probably for the last year, just enjoying the scrolling of looking at houses. So we set up a search, and we have narrowed it down, and kind of we've talked about your wants and needs, your deal breakers, all these things are taken into consideration. And if if you have a partner, we're kind of working together and just narrowing things down and making sure we're finding your areas. If schools are important, there's just a lot to take into consideration, because even though this is a seller's market, so that means inventory is lower, there's still a lot of homes out there, and Metro Atlanta, where I serve, is very big. So we narrow it down, and depending on the day, try and do it within a 2-hour time span, but depending on schedules, I might take your whole day to look at houses, which might be 4 to 5 hours. Or, I typically try and do 2 hours, because we'll just burn you out. But we'll follow each other in cars. I'll drive, and then you'll drive behind me. That's just the real estate way that I've been taught. You know, when it's just me and like a friend, like we drove together and looked at houses because that just makes sense. But typically when it's like a couple or family that's looking at houses, they'll follow behind me. It's just a better way so that they have privacy and they're able to talk about the homes that they've seen in private. And then we just, we'll go on our tours, and sometimes it's like a day or a week or two and we find the right one. Sometimes it's a month or two process. It just depends on that individual. But then you find the house, you do the investigations, you do the initial investigations, and you get the feel if this is the right house for you, and then you write the offer up. And that's a really easy, it makes it seem really easy, and sometimes it can be. Yeah.
Let's say you found the place that you really love. You've obviously gone in and you've looked at it, and you do have to hire an inspection.
Yeah.
You don't have to, right? But you should. Or do you have to?
I mean, you don't have to, but you
like
do.
It's not required by law, but
Correct.
Everybody should.
Yeah, I think depending on if you're an inspector, an investor, and you're going to gut the place or what have you. But I think any home buyer that's going to live in this house, even a spick and span condo, that everyone should get an inspection. But you do not have to. You legally do not have to get an inspection. But even after, this first initial step of finding the home and making an offer, it's still a timeline that we follow. We negotiate the contract, then you're in due diligence, then the inspection, then the appraisal.
Sorry, guy.
I'm surprised my dog didn't hear that and start barking.
Oh, it's like we talk about inspections and they get riled up.
They're getting fired up about the inspection.
Yeah. So, and then once you renegotiate at the inspections, if there's things that need to be repaired, and then we have the appraisal, and then we go to the closing table, and then then the place is yours if everything goes well.
How long does that typically take? I know there's nothing really typical about that every single sale is different, but what's that I guess on average of like you making the offer once you found the place you want, right? You make the offer, and then
I'll say 30 to 45 days. Mitzi can close a loan in 21. She can do it.
If the planets align, the planets have to align perfectly for that to happen.
Yeah, so she can do anything, but I would say typically like a nice 30 to 35 day closing is very typical. If we go to anything over 35 days, it's like, why are you dragging this on? That's what this is.
So people should kind of plan for that, so that they should know when, especially if they're living somewhere currently and paying rent, right? And they don't want to, if they want to try to get something done before the end of a month or something, so they're not paying an extra month's rent.
I got to tell you though, Kurt, it's nuanced because nothing is final till you are at the closing table. So I would recommend, if someone's going to play their 30-day notice, I wouldn't want you to do it until your final hurdle is complete, which is the appraisal. We can work things out, but anything, you don't get cleared to close sometimes until a couple days before you hit the closing table. So it's not a done deal until closing. If it was me, I wouldn't put my 30-day notice in until I have the keys to the next place I'm going to move into. I'm all about being frugal and saving money, but I also know that anything can happen. And, especially they check your employment now the day of closing. So if something happened and, you can't prove employment, your deal could fall through. So it's just anything could happen.
What are they checking if you are an actor and we're not employed by a single employer year round. Like if I were trying to buy a home right now, like I don't have a job, like nobody's paying me right now. So if they're trying to check my employment at the day, who are they calling?
I don't know, Mitzi, are they calling for
Well,
independent
they
contract?
are calling SAG-AFTRA
Oh,
mostly.
okay.
A lot of times with actors who are SAG-AFTRA, that will do for employment verification. If someone is like a reoccurring, or they're um, you know, employed on a show, or currently filming but they're on hiatus because of this, that production company has verified employment for that
Oh, okay.
during COVID. I've
Okay.
I personally haven't closed one, but I know people in California who have closed either with a SAG-AFTRA verification, or they've gone to the production company and gotten a yes, this person is employed with us.
Huh.
So that
Nice.
has happened during COVID.
Oh,
When it isn't COVID time, same thing. If someone is not SAG, then we probably are looking at someone that's probably more like a self-employed borrower. That's a
right.
different
Or
type
they
of
they have their side hustle or their survival job
exactly.
or something like that. They're calling
Yeah,
that place right
exactly. Just like me. I mean, I'm a mortgage broker, or Muretta,
now.
she's a
Right.
realtor, or you
Yeah.
Yeah.
multiple side hustles.
Yeah.
You have to get creative.
Yeah.
And we've done it. We've gotten it. We've made it happen. And right now there's a lot of underwriting overlays because of COVID that are affecting things, but those are starting to fall away. Like today, one fell away for investment properties. So
Oh, okay.
they had all this weird overlays for investors, and those went away today. So things are starting to kind of trickle back to normal, thank goodness. But
Can I
definitely.
ask you a question, Mitzi, about this, like the federal like pandemic assistance, like the $600 a month that people who are on unemployment are getting? So like sometimes that's like, I know a lot of actors are able to get it as gig workers. So so if they're able to save some of this $600 a week, I guess that they're getting,
Right.
which can add up to
Yeah.
a healthy.
Yeah. Jake has almost $3,000 saved.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's, if you're able to save it, I know it's hard
Yeah.
times for a lot of people, but if those are able to save it, are they able to apply that, even though it's
Yeah.
like how that would show up as like something that would be able to go towards a down payment?
Yes, as long as we can paper trail it and show where it came from, number one. Number two, if it's been sourced and seasoned for over 2 months, we don't have to confirm where it came from. It could have come from, the lottery. Who cares? If it's over 2 months old, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Great. That's great.
So as long as they have it in the bank and they don't have it in some random jar in their house. Jar money, mattress money.
Yeah, I've come into that before. I know people think some people are wary of banks, but you have to have your money in a bank.
You have to be verifiable, right?
Right. Yeah. We got to know where and it's, again, 2 months isn't that long. Just go stick it in a savings account and let it sit there for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? I don't care. The lender's not going to care in 2 months. As long as we can pull out some bank statements showing that it's been in there, then we're good to go.
I also want to say this. I like a lot of people, like realtors, we make ourselves like, people are like, you got to get a realtor. But I think like your lender, I always say this, is just as important as your realtor. And I didn't realize that, but you, like, I feel like your realtor is kind of like the face of it at first. But after we find your house and like we do the due diligence and the negotiation, we kind of leave you for a good couple weeks, and you're just in the hands with your lender. Right. And a lot of it up front in the beginning too, is you're getting pre-approved. So it's important that you have good communication and a lender that cares about you, because there's a lot of just big, I'm going to call them box companies because I don't know what else to call them, that are just like machines. And having someone like Mitzi that is small and local and just knows her stuff it's so important.
It's thank you.
Yeah,
that's very sweet. And it's a great team environment when when you have somebody like Kurt who's like on it and goes and gets you everything you need, or you have Muretta, who knows their stuff too. That operation, it goes really, really smoothly, and it is important to have people who care. It's super important.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't want anybody to buy a house they don't want.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to get a loan they don't love and move on down the line.
It really is. I mean, and it's again, something that will ring true for a lot of actors is that if you've been in the industry long enough, you know that the industry is built on relationships, whether it's your relationships with your agents or casting directors or directors or other actors, other teachers, and all, this whole industry is built on relationships. And really buying a house can be very similar, is having a good relationship with your realtor, with your lender, can make it a lot easier. And coming to someone like you, Mitzi, who you can talk to and ask questions at any time, shoot you an email or give you a call at any time. It's very different than calling up, Bank of America to find to try to get a loan from them. So yeah, I totally agree. I think that's super important. These are really the only questions that I've had. I think we've covered the whole process, and we've covered it all in a very short period of time. So obviously there's a lot of people that are going to have many more follow-up questions. So I'll check in with you guys at the end of the call once we're done. So I have all the exact information. So I can put that all up on the screen or down in the comments or whatever, so that people can click to it.
Thank you, Kurt.
Absolutely. So any final things to share? I have a couple more actor related questions at the end, but if there's any final thoughts on the home buying process that you want to share.
I don't think so. I think that it's like a shift in mindset that people need to have. I'll just say that again. Like, you're paying rent, you need to just shift your mindset and realize that you can apply that to a mortgage. It's basically the same thing. You just need to put money down sometimes, and sometimes, most of the time. But there's also down payment assistance programs. I feel like you end up paying more in higher interest rates when you have down payment assistance programs. That's sometimes why I personally don't push them as much. But it's also something that you need to educate yourself on. I think programs like these are, like, listening and researching are very powerful, because we are like liaisons. It is like, and like guides, but you're responsible. Like, you are the consumer doing it. So yeah, but it's such an empowering decision that you make for yourself now and in the future. Yeah.
And I will add that you're never in your lifetime going to see lower interest rates, ever. These interest rates are historically low and have stayed historically low for a really long time. So if you're able to purchase a home now in any way, shape, or form, you should run, not walk, to do it.
Yeah, so you're like borrowing money for free. So like this like finding money right now. So you're like, whatever it costs, you're buying a $200,000 home. Even if it's not your dream home, it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and you wanted a 3-2, and you wanted it to be on the belt line, and this isn't on the belt line, and that's like just stinky. But you're still buying like a 2-1, and like because you don't live on the belt line now. So that's like, you know what I mean? You saved up that $6,000, or I don't know, you did take it out of your 401k. You basically borrowed this money for free, which is like amazing. I mean, like, that's something that I don't know. That's just pretty outstanding. So that
it's so powerful. It's so powerful. I mean, if you're borrowing, this is off of a $210,000 loan at 30 years in the 3s, your payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is like $1,250. That's insanely low. That's insane. That's all in. And what if you rented a room out, and you're basically or if you turned around one day and did buy your dream house on the Beltline, you're going to rent that property out and keep it forever and make money and sell it one day and make money.
Yeah.
I'm
also going to retract that borrowing money at the 3% or whatever it is. It's not borrowing for free. If you look at your amortization schedule, it's not, but it's very low.
Yeah, it's very, very low. And
historically
like you're saying,
low. My first house that I bought, my interest rate was 13%. 13% on my first mortgage, my first house that I purchased. And now I'm seeing interest rates in the 3s. I mean, I've never seen rates this low, ever.
Well, you had mentioned, if you were renting it out in the future, you were making money. But I mean, you could be making money just by having it, because houses appreciate in value. When I moved here in 2016, my first condo that I bought up in Kennesaw, I bought for $148, like just under $150. And by the time I sold it, Muretta, you remember, it was almost $200. And that was just in 3 years, right? So that's, people sometimes don't really even think about that part of it.
And Kurt, how much money would you have had in equity if you'd paid rent for those 3 years?
Right. You'd be that money would just be going down the drain. All right, great. That was awesome. Great conversation. Again, if anybody wants to learn more, they can reach out to you from any of the links that I'm going to be putting down below at the bottom of this video. Let's pivot now to a couple of acting questions. The first thing that I'd like to ask anybody who's on this channel as a guest is there an acting resource that has benefited you, that you really love, whether it's a book, whether it's a website or a podcast or another YouTube channel that you really love, that you've really liked in the past, or very recently that you've discovered that you want to share with people?
I have geeked out over the last year, probably on Audrey Helps Actors, that podcast.
Yeah.
I kind of binged on her once a friend of mine turned me on to her, and it's helped me raise my game and like my mindset of just taking it up, everything up a notch. Like I think just like I now just take everything a little more seriously. Even acting class, I don't just be like, oh, I'm going to class. I'm like, no, I'm going to class and I'm going to be the most prepared in class that I can be, because I'm spending my money on it. So I just train a little harder and show up a little more fully, because that's the type of person that I want to be. So that's
I love that. And I've started listening to that podcast after my former roommate, my friend Jessica Craig, recommended it to me last year, and I started listening to it, and I loved it too. She's
what's the name of this?
Her name is Audrey. Yeah, it's just Audrey Helps Actors is the name of her podcast. It's just it's so real, the conversations that she has, because she has conversations with actors that are series regulars all the way to actors that are just starting out, and really just talking about the processes that everybody is going through. And one of the things, like you said, Muretta, it's very inspirational about like trying to get you to raise your game, because one of the analogies she uses all the time is that this is the Olympics. It's not like you're just playing high school basketball. Like you have to see that you're competing against the best of the very best of the very best in the entire world. And if you're just kind of like, all right, just, moseying around and, like you said, going to class, just for the sake of it and not really putting 100% effort into it, you're doing yourself a disservice. And that's something that she's really gotten across to a lot of people in her podcast. Mitzi, what's something that you'd like to share as far as an actor's resource?
Well, I really loved your auditioning tips that you just sent out, Kurt. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed it a lot. I thought that was great information. It's probably stuff that, I've heard before, but you package it really nicely. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. One of the things that I've done recently is listen to a podcast called One Broke Actress, like the number one broke actress. Her name is Sam Valentine, and she's in LA. And I've really enjoyed her podcast, and she has some really interesting things to say. It does kind of sound a lot like the one you guys were talking about, Audrey Helps Actors. Sam is just like everybody else, just working hard, and she brings on some really interesting people, and I've enjoyed that as well. So that's what I've been listening to. Yeah. Olympic State of Mind, though, guys. I love that. That's a really, it's a great analogy.
I wish I had done it in my 20s. I tell you, man, I should have
things I wish I'd done in my
20s. What?
So many things I wish I'd done in my 20s. Bought the $200,000 house and kept it.
Yeah, so much.
So those of you that are 20-year-olds, do it. Do the stuff that we're talking about now.
Yeah. It's so much easier said than done. But
that's true. That's true. I mean, 20 years from now, I'm gonna be saying this about my current self, right? Thank you guys for sharing those two things. So the last thing that I have is, can you share one big lesson or breakthrough moment or something that you've had in your career up until now, from when you started up until now, whether it's a technique thing or a industry thing, career-based business thing, whatever it is, if there's something that comes to mind.
Oh, okay. When blah, blah, blah. I was just thinking, like, I'm just sending one take now. Just working on some things over this time period and writing more. I was like in having people send me tapes. I'm like, I'm gonna act less, like act. I'm just gonna be me, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna have choices and do all of the stuff, but I'm not gonna act. And also I'm gonna send one take, because everyone's sending these takes and they think they're different, but they're not. It's just you, and I'm just I don't want to have to go through these. It's you. It's might be a nuanced way you're saying something different, but I don't want it. I just want one take, unless I'm making dramatically different things. I say that. I don't know if I'll actually do that, because it's you like to act and you want to send different things.
That's true. That's
fun
true.
to do. But I really think we're making these bigger choices than we actually are. And it's kind of just not, casting directors don't want to do that. They're getting so many different tapes anyway. So I'm just going to keep it simple, sweetheart. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, that's a good one. Really good. My big takeaway when I started acting again about 7 years ago, and up until now, something that I really love that really feels awesome is how important this industry is, and how important storytelling is, and how gratifying it is to be part of that sometimes. When you get to act, or even if you get to produce, or you get to direct, or you get to be a part of telling a story, and how impactful it is on just humans in general, whether it's a sad one or a happy one or a love story or just something poignant and simple, and especially that makes you laugh, because this is a big deal. It's a big deal to be a storyteller. It's a big deal.
Yeah, that's awesome. And totally agree too. And also from the top down, whether it's a big blockbuster film or if it's something very small and local and just made with your friends.
2-minute short that you put together with your iPhone.
They can be really impactful. I remember just seeing some locally produced projects here in Atlanta that have made people cry and made people laugh and really, touched people. And that's awesome.
The last thing I got touched by was this woman was about to have a birthday, and she's born on the 13th, just like me. And she put out this hilarious video about her friends skipping her birthday. And it was hilarious. It was hilarious. You're going to have to put a link in there.
I'll put that link up.
Birthday.
I will.
Video.
I will put that link up.
Oh my God.
I loved it so much.
Thank you. You're next.
Oh, no. My 50th birthday. I don't even know. It's like choking me. It's like right there.
I feel it though.
All right.
Thanks, Kurt.
Moretta, thank you guys so much for joining
You're so
me.
welcome.
Thank you.
I appreciate
having
you.
this conversation. I appreciate you guys, and I hope, and I think people are going to get a lot out of this because you answered a lot of questions. You even answered some questions that I didn't even know I had until I started talking to you guys today. So again, for those that are watching, contact info for both of them are down in the description below. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. And
Awesome.
hope to see you in person at some point in the near future.
And
please.
On set.
And
yes.
on set. Yes.
Yes.
Get on
Hope to you guys on set. See you on set. All right.
Bye,
guys.
Thanks, Kurt.
All right. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I want to thank Moretta and Mitzi one more time for joining me. You'll find their contact info down in the description below. Hey, are you an actor and a homeowner? Tell me about it down in the comments. All right, until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and I hope to see you on set one day. And I hope to see that you've purchased your first home.